All right. Welcome to September's free group coaching call. What were you going to
I was
say?
gonna say it feels abrasive because we're in a new space. It feels like we're being yelled at.
So we are super excited to be digging into questions for this month. This month in the village and in our content in general, we're really focusing on phase 2 of our framework. We are talking about your complex life circumstances and how those have created burnout and how those manifest in daily life, and how to start taking those into consideration despite the world and so much personal development telling you just work hard and have more discipline. And if you're just more motivated, and how to get out from underneath those limiting beliefs and into the reality of your day-to-day life, what your complex life circumstances are, and how that plays into how you have written the story about yourself and what you're capable of and what's possible for you, and also what you're allowed to do, not allowed to do, and ideally reshaping that so that you can create the life that you are thriving in rather than surviving. One of the things I'm going to say now, because I know I'm going to forget, it would be worth taking a moment to journal on what your definition of thriving is without getting it right, but it's just journaling. What would like thriving look like for you as someone who is actually not completely fatigued and exhausted, not completely dysregulated and worn out by the day? Because knowing where you're headed can be helpful in that journey.
I also think it's really important to know what thriving looks like for you right now. That's one of the other things that, and actually, Tasha and I were just having this conversation yesterday because we were getting ready for a client call. And just there's a lot of, especially in the work that we do with our clients, there's a lot of emphasis on where we're going and wanting where we're going to be obviously some version of better than where we are. It's the reason why we're doing all of this shit on purpose in the first place. But if you can't clock what thriving looks like for you when you are depleted, when you are still burnt out, but not necessarily incapable. Like, what does thriving look like for you right now? Because that's the place that you're going to start building. Like, you're not there. It's not that you don't have anything. And it might not be that you have a lot, but where is it that you're thriving? Where is it that you feel successful right now? Where is it that you feel like you can have fun right now? Even if it's, this is my favorite show, even if it's, this is 5 minutes before I go to bed and it's the only thing that I enjoy.
I think Michelle had a good question. She said, how can you be thriving with burnout? I think it's a semantics thing for you and me.
For sure.
So I think thriving, and this is exactly the reason we invite you to journal on this. Thriving, the way I was thinking about it, was a future version when you are not in survival mode.
Yeah.
And what are the ways that you can tap into that now? Like, where are you finding joy and peace now? Mm-hmm. Where are you able to access a little bit of inspiration, joy, connection, which is how you will thread together building the future version of thriving. I think that's,
it's also how you know what it feels like. Like, if I were to ask you to start speaking a language you'd never heard before, you wouldn't even know where to start. But if you don't know how to speak any languages, but you are a huge fan of the telenovela, and I said, hey, start speaking Spanish, you would have any clue. You would have at least some idea of like, okay, this is what this language sounds like. This is what it feels like in my mouth to mimic this language. I bet you I can start somewhere. If we don't have any clue as to what the most minuscule moment of happiness or the minuscule moment of like, this whole day fucking blew, but at the same time, I did this one thing well enough that I'm not pissed off at myself about it. Like, if we don't have a place to build from, then you're just running around in the dark, hoping you figure out what happiness feels like. And so even if it's not the kind of happiness that you want to propel forward, knowing where that information feels in your body and what it does for you is really important. If we're seeking something without any frame of reference for what it could possibly be, we essentially are directionless. And so it'd be, so like when Tasha and I talk to clients about like figuring out what they like to do outside of work, especially with people that are business owners who very much are like work dedicated, the idea is, all right, let's start looking for things that spark some kind of imagination, spark some kind of happiness. even if it's not like this is my favorite thing ever and I can't wait to do this for the rest of my life, but just knowing what that feels like so that you can say, this is familiar now. So when it happens, I can be really aware of it. What were you going to say?
Nothing. I think that we're just talking about two different seasons of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which tracks. And thriving, I think historically which is why Michelle is saying this, we have talked about thriving being what happens after you're not surviving.
Yeah.
And so the thriving where you are not in survival mode anymore is what I was inviting you to journal on. And I think what Brandon is saying is you're familiar with some aspect of that now so that you can start connecting those dots to where you're going in the future. So you don't have to like magic up a definition of thriving because you can see glimmers of that in your current life. So I'm going to drop in here. I mean, you're already in it, Michelle. I'm so excited you're going to be at the workshop. But we have the Bold to Become You workshop coming up. Am I missing it?
You are.
Oh, it's right there.
Every time you just keep rolling right by it.
The Bold to Become You workshop is coming up at the end of September. September 27th and 28th. Thank you, Michelle, for the note that the confirmation does say the 29th on one of those days. But the Bold to Become You workshop is where we go really deep into what thriving could look like for you, what luxury looks like, what joy and peace and connection and fulfillment, putting you as the main character in your life rather than the people-pleasing fawning that we've been in for many, many years. So that is what we're talking about. So Michelle, do you have any questions today? That's one of the reasons we're here, right? For those of you who are new and we're watching the replay, one of the things that will happen in about 20 minutes, we'll share more about The Village, which is our online program that has lifetime access to the community. And this is very similar to the experience that our community members have in The Village. We do 2 calls a month, and we'll talk more about that are similar to this in about 20 minutes. So we'll do like a 5-minute plug, and then we'll keep asking questions. We did the core values workshop and chose 5. It was interesting to find values that I believe for others versus what I want for myself. Ooh, that is interesting. I would like one to celebrate the fact that you have 5 because we're first doing this. You had a long one. That's how everybody works, right? Like we've never seen anybody come to a core values draft with just 5 the first round. This is actually not your first draft. This is like draft 7 for you.
Yeah.
Because when we were first talking, you had done some of this work with a therapist before. And then when we did it, you had like 12 or 13, I think, if I remember correctly. And so dwindling it down is progress. So I want to celebrate that first, like celebrate the fact that you have gained clarity so much so that you now have 5 core values that you're identifying with and relating to, because that makes it easier to make decisions from 5 filters rather than 13 or 25, which is how some of us have to start. So that's really cool. I think I was confusing core values with versus what I want to work on for the Bold Becoming workshop. Oh, interesting. That makes sense. And it can get a little wonky if you're in your head too much about it. So when you are looking at the core values for yourself versus what you want for yourself, it's an interesting thing because core values can change as you heal, as you let go of old patterns, as you are out of survival mode. And so what is your takeaway from having things that you believe for others versus what you want for yourself? Like what does that mean to you?
You're not mute.
Yeah.
It's just Michelle.
So the thing is, if I'm happy to unmute you, this will be put on YouTube later on. So I want to make sure that you know that before we talk, because not everybody's going to be comfortable with that. Let us know if you do want us to unmute Michelle and we can talk. I think it was for things I already have, like the bottom of the pyramid, basics, food and shelter. What is
your core values or your
for others that do not have that? I want that. Oh, got it.
Got it.
Well, that makes sense. So core values, I was thinking of those things with core values. That makes sense. So, and I mean, that speaks to who you are. You're a compassionate, kind person who cares about humanity. So I think that's worth taking into consideration when it comes to core values. It is an interesting shift that we need to make with core values. Yes, it is. Compassion is one of the core values. The action versus the idea, right? And we've done some of this work already, so that's probably why this was playing into it for you. A core value is the filter for which you make decisions and how you view the world and what you find to be non-negotiable in actually circling back to the word thriving, into a place where you can be thriving and really flourishing in your truest self. And so wanting that for others would make sense, and having that feeling of compassion for others makes sense. Do you have anything? For those of you watching the replay, core values are a concept that we use in phase 2 of our framework. It's really important part of the framework because this is where we start to really untangle where you are making decisions, or we're making decisions based on what we want and what we truly feel. Like you can feel it in your body once you get that reconnection with their mind body piece together, versus what other people have maybe told you that you should want, maybe what other people have impressed upon you as this is the rule, this is the right way to do this, think this, feel this. And core values are one of the things that adjust and change as you become more regulated, because you're not making decisions and chasing things and feeling passionate about things out of fear. And instead you're identifying with these non-negotiable ideas and these principles and beliefs based on who you are and the kind of person you want to be on the planet.
And I think the thing about core values that can be tricky at times is when you're in the beginning of that journey, there's a lot of stuff you do right now in your life that is not attached to your core values, it's attached to somebody else's. And so when you're sifting through, like, what are my core values, and you're thinking about what that is, a lot of the times, and it makes sense to thinking about what things do I take action on, and that could correlate to a core value. And the reality is, it's great to go through those things, but when you go through those things with the filter of, is this a core value, or is this related to a core value? I think it's important to recognize that there are a bunch of things that we do that we've been conditioned we need to do, or that we should be doing, that aren't actually core values of ours. And so the part in the beginning is discerning the difference between the stuff you do because you do it, and the stuff that you do because it's aligned with who you are and what you want for yourself in this life. And not just because it's going to get me the house, but because this is how I, as a person, feel like my best self, feel the truest version of my best self, feel authentic. And being able to separate those two things, one of the things that's going to start to happen when you do look at your core values is you are going to start to acknowledge there's a collection of things that I do on a regular basis that aren't actually aligned. And it's in discovering of the core values that you're going to be able to learn how to release those things where you don't feel bad about it. Because a lot of the things we're doing them to some degree out of obligation to other people, or in
the relationship
with other people.
Yeah.
And so part of finding your core values is also going to give you the opportunity to learn how to be compassionate of the people that you're doing things with, to be able to say, like, I know that I've been doing this for the last 35 years of my life, but I'm not anymore. And it has nothing to do with you. It's because of this, or I'm going this way. But being able to separate, like, the activities you do and the core values that are actually true to you is the beginning of this work.
One of the cool ways, I'll let you read that so I can say this. One of the cool ways to know when a core value has actually locked into your life as an action that you've taken is, at the end of the day, you're proud of it. You're proud of something that you've done. You feel good about the interaction, the execution of an idea. You feel good about making that decision or making that a priority, versus when it's not a core value, you did the thing, so you think you should be proud, but you're like, I still feel off about it. Like,
I feel like there's something to do.
I feel like I need to explain it, or it didn't actually feel good. And so now I feel left with this weird feeling of, like, not accomplishing, not achieving, not closure, because it actually wasn't aligned with your core values. So let's give some examples of core values and actions for that. So one of the things, I mean, we have it a lot here now that we've moved to Portland. We have a lot of opportunity to be in alignment with our core values, which is one of the reasons we moved here. Feel free to keep doing what you need to do while you're listening. And one of the things that we recognized as we have hopped around Portland, I don't know, how many places have we lived? Like 7 or 8 places?
I think it's been that many.
Is each neighborhood has its own flavor of it, but one of the not spoken beliefs in Portland, Oregon, is that the land is not necessarily there to look pretty. It's there as a function of the place and to support the environment, to support the community in it. It's not cut down and manicured so that it looks a certain way, which is very much what we were used to on the East Coast. It's, how does this support the values of the community? So there are signs everywhere about Black Lives Matter and the different social values in the area, but also there are beehives everywhere, and there are what is the word I'm looking for? Pollinating plants
Right.
everywhere. And so that's one of the things that is aligned with us. And as we see it, and this is one of the things that I think is sometimes hard to articulate, as you walk by it and you see something that is aligned with your core values, it's the safety that it keeps creating as you are experiencing that. Walking through the city and seeing house after house after house have some flavor of this core value has been so good for me and my nervous system.
Well, and when we, for the first time as a family, went to California, and it was shortly after quarantine had ended and all of that, and we were coming from Virginia, we went to a grocery store, and I'm the one who does the grocery shopping for the family. And it was the first time in, I don't know how long ever, that I was in a public place and I realized, like, oh, I haven't felt safe most of my entire last 10 years of being alive when we were living in Virginia, because of our values, because of our very queer family, because of our disabilities, because of all of it. I just, where we were, the environment wasn't built to take care of anybody other than able white people. And being able to be in a place where that wasn't the case, it really highlighted, oh my God, I'm living in a place that doesn't honor my core values at all. And now I'm in a place where even the smallest change makes me feel safe. And that is a huge, like, when you recognize that, that is a huge shift to realize, like, I can't ever go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't ever
unsee that, especially when you have done the healing work with the nervous system. You realize the safety in your nervous system and just the safety in my body here, compared to other places that we traveled while we were doing that.
1,000,000%.
Like you said, Michelle, like the ending up in Knoxville, Tennessee. So, and I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that is important to remember, because not everybody has the resources, or there are a lot of other factors that play into being able to just move. I mean, we certainly had some privilege in that, and also sacrificed other things that probably other people wouldn't to be able to find this. But even in Richmond, there were places where we lived in Virginia, there were places that had some of these values for sure. And there were people that we could have connected to, and there are different parts of the city probably that were more aligned with this than not. But for us, this was the right move. And so understanding that wherever you are, you can find those people. Like, you can find somebody in that area that does have similar core values. You can find flavors of it. You can create it if you are feeling so inclined. Although if you're here, please don't do that, because you don't have the capacity yet. But those are opportunities that come from being able to identify your core values and not just know them as a fluffy idea, but actually execute them in day-to-day life. It becomes a superpower that it becomes a connector for you as well. Like, the people that have similar values are going to show up to do similar things. They're going to take action in similar ways. And so if you're looking for people who have similar core values, what are the things that you wish you could go do more of if you were limited in your capacity, or the things that you do want to do? So, like, for me, I'm looking forward to getting into a pottery studio, because there are going to be people there who have similar values, at least in that one aspect of life. I have a newish friend in the area who we're going to be going on hikes together, because once we get into each other's space, we don't stop talking. We also love nature, and we know it's good for our nervous systems. And so those pieces, what is the word? Expand your embodiment of your core values. So it makes it easier to meet more people like that, because they have a network. And so these things really become a self-fulfilling prophecy, as well as they snowball once you have that clarity. So the value of knowing your core values is unmeasurable. It's just priceless.
Well, and I mean, it's just a similar thing as, like, going outside and deciding, like, I'm just going to see blue cars today. And all of a sudden you're like, why are all these motherfuckers buying all these blue cars? And it's just because you set your filter to see that thing, and all of a sudden it's everywhere. Once you have your filter set for your core values, then it's almost impossible to not see where they are, but also where they are not.
This is a neuroscience thing, and I'm getting really excited about the geeky side of it. The reticular activating system is what that is in your brain. And once you know what your core values are, once you know what the goals are that you have, it works the same way. And for those of you who have ADHD, this is a really good dopamine hack. once you know what those things are, like Brandon was saying, you see them easier. Your brain's filtering for those things. And so once your filter gets engaged, then it just becomes more fine-tuned and it gets better practice. Your brain is constantly looking for data to reinforce the thing that you have said that you want once you identify what you want, which is why knowing what you want and core values, visuals, goals, all of that is so important, because you can actually hack your brain to look for that. There are just as many blue cars as there are probably red cars and white cars on the road. But if you go out today looking for the blue car, and that is how you've set the intention, which is why the power of intention is so important, which is why having clarity in your core values is so important. You will find more of what you're looking for, and you will have less energy output trying to make those things happen. Like, it's just bananas how your brain is wired to do that. You just have to wire it for your alignment than the wiring we received from childhood, from other people in our lives, the world that we were in, the environments we were in.
Well, this is also why nervous system regulation is so important. Because here's the thing that happens is that you do this work and you figure out, like, these are my core values. If you're first starting with your core values, by the way, you're going to have like 40. And if you are someplace like where
extensive list,
right? And if you're someplace where like Michelle is, where she shared like she has 5, which is fucking amazing, but that's because she's been doing this shit for 3 years. And we keep harping on core values, and so she keeps coming back to core values to dwindle that list down so it's tighter. But once you see your core values, and then you go into your world and you go into your regular routine, whether that's going into the office or going to the grocery store or wherever the fuck you go, now all of a sudden your filter is set for your core values. But when your filter is set for your core values, you're also seeing the shit that are not your core values. This is why nervous system regulation is so important. Because when you first discover your core values and you realize, holy crap, I'm swimming in a sea of everything but my core values, except for maybe far off in the distance, there's one. It's very dysregulating. It can feel very lonely. It can feel very frustrating. We have a client who regularly gets dysregulated by the just shitty nature of what it is to live in this country and all the stupid crap that the government is doing. It's because she's heightened her awareness of her core values. And so now all she can see is where people are rubbing up against her core values, which is why nervous system regulation is so important. Because we want you to be able to identify, this isn't for me. These aren't my core values. That's a really excellent thing. There's somebody, they belong there because of somebody. But for you, what's important is, now that I see that these aren't aligned with me, whatever these are, this activity, this person, this job, this place, this location, now that I see that this is aligned with me because I understand my core values to some degree, now get regulated so that you can take action that is aligned to actually bring more of your core values into your world, rather than just being dysregulated in a misaligned world. And that is like, that's the magic of our framework, is it builds on each other. So we start always with nervous system regulation, so that when you get to your core values, you don't have a meltdown because all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, this entire world fucking blows. So as you're working on figuring out what your core values are, or as you're looking and seeing, like, this actually isn't aligned with me, I don't know if that's not a core value, but I don't like it. Also, as important is to regularly regulate your nervous system, so that you can receive the information and actually do something with it that's healthy and productive for you, rather than just getting more and more dysregulated.
Hi, Roxana. Hi, Catherine.
Hey.
If you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. I know for 2 of you, core values is a little bit further down the path for our framework than where you have started, but also know both of you actually have done a lot of personal development work already. So if you have any ideas of what your core values are, or there's a single core value that you feel really strong about, feel free to drop that in the chat. Or if you have questions about how to use them, where to start filtering them, any of those things. I mean, core values is just one of the things we started talking about with our first, I was gonna say caller, radio show from 1995. But also today we're just answering questions. Where the focus for our content for this month within the village, as well as on our public platforms, is phase 2. We're talking about the complex life circumstances. So if you know what your complex life circumstances score is, that's a great place to start. For those of you who are watching the replay, complex life circumstances are the factors in your life that are not taken into consideration by the way the systems and structures of society are set up to support and accommodate you. And so things like being a single parent, being someone with a disability, being neurodivergent, having a chronic illness, having a cycle. So those is what 50% of the fucking world is operating in a world that does not support the complexities of their life. And so these are all factors that make it more energy costly for you to move through the day, that are often bulldozed by all of the personal development, success strategy kinds of concepts that we're used to hearing when it comes to how to thrive, how to build a life and a business that is exciting and fulfilling to you. A lot of the methodologies, all of the methodologies that we have experienced and seen over the last 20 plus years have been really missing a huge piece in the CLCs, is that the CLCs for every number adds a new layer of complexities and unpredictable factors. And it requires a different strategy to move towards goals, move towards clarity for core values, and just feeling like you can not just survive your day-to-day life, but also thrive in the things that you care about.
I also want to say that when you're thinking about your complex life circumstances, so let's say that it's your cycle. If you're thinking about your cycle as a complex life circumstance, by default, that makes your core values different than, say, someone who doesn't have a cycle. And so recognizing that your complex life circumstances and your core values are connected. Your core values are going to support a life with complex life circumstances.
And you may find that once you actually identify your complex life circumstances and you are willing to accept that reality rather than gaslighting yourself because you were conditioned to do so, you may have core values that you never even thought of that become important to you because you have had this awakening of your reality versus what you've been told your reality is.
Or they have a completely different meaning altogether.
Yeah.
Like for me, not that I knew it in my life before we started doing this work, but autonomy has always been a core value of mine.
It is for our entire community. Welcome to the neurodivergent spectrum.
When Tasha got sick and was in a wheelchair, and we were in the worst place on earth, which is Disney World, and I had to push Tasha and our youngest in a wheelchair, autonomy meant a thing to me that it had never meant before, ever. Like I had never, ever felt so enraged by a lack of autonomy for us
yeah.
in having that experience. And my family's disabilities and chronic illness are my complex life circumstance. And it wasn't until I had that experience that I realized that my core value of autonomy just became deeper than I had ever possibly imagined. It was something that I never knew could have the depths that I felt in those moments that I feel now. And so we don't go to places that don't allow for our family to have certain kinds of autonomy.
Well, and this is such a Antonia, this is such an important thing to consider when it comes to your political views and how the world works, because this is a economic core value alignment. We're not going to give any place money that doesn't allow and support us and our family in thriving, right. Which is why so many of us have boycotted Target and have boycotted Amazon as much as we can, while also taking into consideration, and this is an important piece of this, I don't share this publicly because there's too much nuance to it, but we do, our family does need to use Amazon to some degree. We have drastically reduced it, but because accessibility is real. And so we cannot create more obstacles for ourselves as people who have limited capacity, limited energy, for the sake of a core value that isn't actually going to be the thing that changes everything across the board, right? We can be mindful, we can make the changes we need to, but the reality is that people with complex life circumstances don't have the privilege of just not participating in any of the systems that are happening, because that is sometimes the only way we can actually get through the day-to-day life. And so it's a complicated challenge, it's a complicated problem when we're looking at complex life circumstances, which is why it's such a huge part of the conversation we have with our clients and our community. You have to be willing and able to have these nuanced conversations. It's not all or nothing. As much as many of us want things to be that way and the world treats us that way, it is not all or nothing. And so it requires us to have these nuanced conversations about
right.
what is right and wrong, what is good and bad, that's not the same for everybody. And we can't tell somebody else based on what we think about their complex life circumstances. Insert this is in the discussion with the audio. Can you ask that question a different way? I don't know how that insert so. Oh, yeah, just raise your hand and you can speak.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I'm going to remind everybody. So just remember, when this is a free community call. So when the replay is posted on YouTube, if you are speaking, you will be heard and people will be able to see you. And that's fine with me, but I want to warn everybody so that you have that. So if you would like to speak, there you go, unmute.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, and now I'm blank. Yes, thank you.
If you want to take a second, come back, let us know.
Yeah, I wanted to, firstly, I wanted to really validate what you said about when you discover your core values, you become super dysregulated, because I did that, some part of it, until we came together in the coaching program, and it was super fucking dysregulating, like,
yeah.
Yes. And also seeing how much my personal core values, they are not aligned with the world we live in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how these core values tie, like you said, tie very closely to my and our complex life circumstances. And uh, in, in a certain way, I think, like, we are given some of the complex life circumstances to find our core values or to apply our core values in those specific circumstances we have.
Yeah.
Also the fact, like what you said with accessibility, for me a big one was understanding that I can't, like, um, unplug totally from capitalism, because I have to earn money and do it in a way that aligns with my values, but also, like, if I'm in a point where I think if I'm gonna align totally with my values, I can't earn money. So I have to find the middle ground for basically navigating the system we are given, okay, but also navigating my internal system, my internal values. It's quite complicated.
It is complicated. And one of the things that I think makes it more complicated is when we're isolated, when we're trying to figure out how to make sense of all of these things by ourselves in the same brain that was conditioned from other people for the first 12 to 20 years of our lives for many of us, while also having this awareness and this increased sense of non-negotiable that we have, and trying to make sense of that. And so one of the reasons that the village is so important to us, as is the community that we have on our platform, is seeing other people are having these conversations with themselves too. Like, wait, I'm not the only one that's confused by how to do this the right way. Like how frustrated I am that I have to operate in a capitalistic society, and how I don't want to be part of this, but I also can't not, because I need medical supplies, and I need the system to help me with some of those things, because I don't have the energy and time to just go and explore. Like a great example is I just started working with an EDS personal trainer this past Friday, and he knows so much similar stuff that we know, but also he gets to branch off on the physical side of things that I did not. I don't have the capacity to. If I had endless time, didn't have to worry about paying bills, I would definitely explore that, because I love that. But the reality is I have to pick and choose where I spend my time and energy, because we do live in a capitalistic society. I can't just go down a rabbit hole and hope I have paid the bills by the end of that rabbit hole, which will take me usually weeks. And so being able to invest in these resources emotionally, financially, energetically is part of the system that is so challenging to navigate in a silo. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
One of the things also, Roxanne, I think is important to acknowledge with that journey is recognizing, like, my core values don't align with a capitalistic society, and we live in one. And so then the way to nurture that is when you do have to engage with a capitalistic society and you do have to spend money to be able to receive something that you need, really taking the time, excuse me, if you have the capacity to take it, to identify which services, which businesses, which people are aligned with your core values, so that if you have to engage with this thing that is awful, you're engaging with it in a way that is aligned with your core values. And because you're engaging with people that are aligned with your core values, you're aligned with their core values, which means more of what you believe in comes to the surface. And I think this, and I mean, obviously that comes with the territory of like boycotting certain places, but also only giving your money to certain places and creating the community that requires less of the capitalistic structure because you're all aligned. Because we're giving our money to people that are aligned with us, they're giving their money to us. It creates at least a bubble that we're able to like allow our core values to come to the top rather than just having to swallow the frustration and just keep plugging away.
Yeah, I when I mentioned the capitalistic society, I also mentioned the making money part, not just spending part.
Yeah.
That is another big one. And also, I have another question, which is kind of tied to complex life circumstances, the subject of this meeting. How do you find your comfort zone? Because contrary to neurotypical, neuronormative, like, I don't know, expectations, a lot of neurodivergent people and also chronically ill people don't really have a comfort zone. Personally, I am finding my comfort zone. I was out of my comfort zone in like a lot of discomfort with so many levels of discomfort. So now I'm like, how do you start finding that comfort zone? Like, what are the, like, I don't know, components, the pieces that you have to put together for that?
I love that question. So I'm going to pause that. We're going to answer that question in 1 second. I want to make sure that I do a quick 2-minute plug for the village, like I promised 10, 15 minutes ago. And then we'll come back and answer your question. And then Catherine will get to your question. We do have about 20 minutes left. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat so we can try to get to those before the call is over. If you have a question, we don't get to it. If you're in the village, we'll touch base in circle. Otherwise, if you are here as a guest, you can message us on Instagram and we'll try to answer you there. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the Village is our online program that has lifetime access to online community, in which case this is very similar, if not exactly like our online, coaching calls. So twice a month we have coaching calls where communities like this who have complex life circumstances and are navigating healing from burnout, healing from CPTSD, and trying to create a life that is meaningful and inspiring for them, can come together, ask questions, help get some other perspectives, feel in community with one another, see that other people are also having this. So it takes a little bit of the am I crazy, too crazy out of the conversation internally and turn it into actionable items where you can start making changes in your life rather than just learning a bunch of stuff from Instagram, from programs that you may be taking, and integrating these realities, your core values, your complex life circumstances, regulation into your day-to-day life with your work, with your people, with your own mind, body, and spirit. And so we do this through our 3-phase framework where we help you stabilize your nervous system and stop the spiral so you get out of your mind, so your nervous system becomes a stronger foundation. Then we move to phase 2 where we are doing identity reboot, because who you have been is mostly created by survival mechanisms, and your patterns and habits are based on running away from something and fear-based. And so in this phase, because you're more regulated, we help you figure out who you are. Where are your core values? What are the complex life circumstances? What are the things that you're excited about and inspired by? And kind of honing in on what do you actually want versus what have you been doing to survive? And then in phase 3, we help you put boundaries around those things because you just got real clear about some things that are non-negotiable in your life. And so we help our clients navigate the conversations in their relationships, their internal relationships, as well as professional relationships and with themselves, on how to protect those ideas and that clarity that they just got from the previous phase. And through this 3-phase framework called the Unshakable method, you become unshakable. You become the version of you that you were supposed to be before the world started trying to condition you and make you scared to exist. And so the village is where our most accessible program for people around the world to get that support and guide through the process. Anything else?
I don't think so.
If you have questions about the village and you're watching the replay, it's the link to that is in the description. Okay, so Roxana's question, you were asking about
Comfort zone.
Thank you.
Comfort zone specifically, and I love this question, Roxana, because comfort zone specifically with a person with a chronic illness, what you said was a person with a chronic illness doesn't really have a comfort zone. And so God, you are 100% right. Like, how do I find a comfort zone when I'm in this body that, one, doesn't do what everybody says it's supposed to do, but two, in a society that doesn't honor a body that doesn't do what everybody says it's supposed to do? The thing that honestly comes to mind first when hearing that question is the way to start discovering what your comfort zone is through regulating your nervous system. Because when you are uncomfortable and you are dysregulated, the only thing that you can identify is discomfort. And recognizing that your brain and your body are having two different conversations with you at the exact same time. Your body's trying to tell you.
I want you to say that again.
Your brain and your body are having two different conversations with you at the exact same time.
That is always going to be uncomfortable. And until you get that loop on the same page, communicating with each other and at least following a somewhat similar goal and script, it's going to be suffering versus struggling.
And so, like, just as an example, if you have a flare up and it's like in the range of a flare up, it's like medium for you. Your body is telling you something. Your body is saying, I'm inflamed. Your body is saying that we need rest. Your body is just telling you information. Your brain, on the other hand, is receiving the information, the discomfort that your body is feeling, and goes into overdrive, trying to save you from danger that you once experienced a long time ago. Which means that your body may be just saying, like, hey, we're mildly uncomfortable today, and like taking a break, drinking water, and like clocking out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon is probably all we need. Your brain, on the other hand, is saying, this hurts, and if we don't do something about it, it's going to hurt forever. You're probably going to die. And so finding a comfort zone in that is fucking impossible, because your body is just like trying to give you information and your brain sounding an alarm. And so when you regulate your nervous system, it slows everything down, and it gives you the opportunity to say, my body is telling me something. My body is telling me that it's not uncomfortable at a level 10, it's uncomfortable at a level 5. When you figure out what that means, then you can discern, in the situation that I'm in, what is my comfort zone? What gives me peace? What gives me relief? I think it's also really valuable, and we were talking about this at the beginning of this call. What does a comfort zone mean to you? Are you operating in a world for yourself where a comfort zone for you equals the exact same thing as a person who has a neurotypical brain, who doesn't have a chronic illness, who doesn't have a disability?
And yeah,
one of the most challenging, and quite frankly, in the very beginning of the journey, frustrating and sometimes depressing parts about this process is the acknowledgement of your experience is singular. Your comfort zone is going to be different than my comfort zone. Your level of being able to feel good is going to be different than my level of being able to feel good. And so the first place we really need to start is, what does it mean to you within the context of your life right now? What does it mean to you to be comfortable? Recognizing that definition, as you grow and heal, will change. It will expand. If you regulate your nervous system, if you identify your complex life circumstances and you support them, if you identify your core values and you make choices that are aligned with them, and you create boundaries that secure and safeguard your time, that give you space to process, that give you space to navigate your own needs in your own body, your version of a comfort zone is going to expand and grow. But in this moment, knowing what it means for you in the context of your life with what you have available to you, if you don't know even what that could potentially be, you're never going to find it. The thing that Tasha and I tell everybody is, and we speak to this to people who have a cycle, and so I'm just going to say it as though all of us in the room have a cycle. The hardest day of your cycle is the gauge. That is your like regular operating speed and capacity. And anything above that is a bonus. And it's not because you're lacking. It's because that is when your body is needing you the most. We need to set that. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to just build on that. These expectations is the word that came to me immediately when you started talking about comfort zone, Roxana. And what Brandon is talking about is exactly it, that I still, this many years into it, still need reminders of, which is, it speaks to how hardwired we are to ignore this reality and to want to be doing rather than acknowledging what is really already being. The expectation of comfort zone looking a very specific way based on an able-bodied, cis hetero, Christian rich, white wealthy male that has a neurotypical brain is what we are conditioned to see and think is what is normal. And part of the work in this journey is unlearning that and identifying that when we see it, like seeing that, oh, that's what they think good is, right is, calm is, happy is, successful is, all of those things. A lot of the work in what we do, or we've done personally, but also what we do with our professional work is being able to catch those things in movies, in TV shows, in social media, and saying that is somebody's reality, but that does not mean that's the right thing. And starting to dissect and deconstruct the belief that we need to meet those expectations to be comfortable, to be happy, to be successful. And so it's redefining expectations to exactly what Brandon said, with the hardest day, the least spoons in your cycle, while also, if you don't have a cycle, you can think about it as on the chronic illness, on your flare-up days, like what is the max that you can do without overextending yourself on those hard days, on those flare days. Those are the metrics we're looking at with your CLCs. On your ADHD days, when your brain feels like it cannot slow down, you are overstimulated, you're having a really hard time focusing, what is the max that you can expect of yourself on those days? Looking at your CLCs individually and then collectively, that is what we're looking at to adjust expectations, because then you're going to use less energy trying to achieve the max and actually allow yourself to see progress by changing the bar.
This is a bigger topic than what we have time for, but I'm going to say this anyway, so everybody has time to just like process this. This requires an enormous amount of intentional grieving. You have been told your entire life that your body can do anything you want it to, as long as you put your mind to it, as long as you work it out, as long as you feed it certain things, as long as you treat it a certain way. What you were not told when you were given all that information is also, in order for that truth to be real, you have to be a rich white guy. It's just not fucking true that your body can do whatever you want it to do if you have a chronic illness and a disability. It's just not fucking true that you can do whatever you want to do on any given day if you have a cycle. And if you're go through PMDD, then your shit is 100% harder to just get up and go do stuff on certain phases of your cycle. Grieving what you were told was possible and what you convinced yourself you needed to work towards, so that you can accept who you are and see the possibilities that you as a unique individual have, is the only way that you're going to be able to get through this in a way that's actually exciting. And by through this, I mean your life. If you are showing up to every occasion going, I'm going to work within my capacity, but in the back of your mind saying, this really fucking sucks because my capacity doesn't let me to do what I really want to do.
And it should be this.
Then you are just spending the rest of your life beating the shit out of yourself, and you are never actually going to feel accomplished. You could be the most on paper accomplished person you know.
And you are in many ways.
And it will never be enough. Because you are trying to meet a set of standards that literally are impossible for your body to match.
And weren't designed for you. I think this is the important part, is these things weren't designed for you specifically to thrive. They weren't. They were not designed. They were not taken, the systems and structures were not taking you into consideration.
That does not mean that if there is a thing out there that was made for an able-bodied human being and you really want to do it, you should not work your ass off to think outside of every single box and think in the most creative way possible so you can attain the thing that you want. But in your capacity, with your complex life circumstances, with the abilities that you have. Not like the fucking 18-year-old young white guy who has money and can do anything. Like, that's just not a standard that anybody can live up to. But the grief of the story and the lie you were told that you believed, to begin to accept what you can do and where you want to go is crucial. And it's the reason why Tasha was able to get out of bed after being in bed for 2 years and people telling her that she most likely was just going to keep getting worse, is because she stopped trying to figure out how to get out of bed and run her life in a way that was literally impossible for her body to run it. And she acknowledged the grief and worked through it to then think outside the box and come up with something better.
For the record, it's an ongoing process with the grieving thing. Still working
Yeah.
through it, but it is a huge part of the process, and that will create more comfort because your expectations are not constantly being bulldozed or coming short, and you don't have that like other shoe dropping. Okay, we have 6 minutes left. Great question, Roxana. Thank you for that. 6 minutes left. I'll make sure we get to Catherine's question. Great question for today. Ideas for regulation strategy before bed. Realization from last week's nervous system regulated is how much fight or flight I'm in during the day. Yes, 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 yes. As I've been more mindful about that itch, doom scrolling is scratching for me. A big part of that is my brain needs an off ramp from being keyed up all day, but doing something that is relaxing still feels really hard to do, even though I know it's the right thing. I want to touch on that, and I'm gonna keep going. Knowing what you should do and not being able to do it is one of the biggest frustrating things for those of us in this community, because you are so wicked smart. You know all the things. I know all the things, but doing those things can feel impossible. And I want you to just hear that that is not because you're broken. It's because of the executive function that goes offline when you're just dysregulated, which is why regulation is something that we pound on over and over and over again, because when you are more regulated, you have more access to all parts of your brain that are going to get you into motion, whatever that looks like. So but doing something that's really relaxing, even though I know it's the right thing, my brain is conditioned to more input and not being able to turn off until I literally can't keep my eyes open. So this is what you've known how to do. This is what your brain and body have learned to do. So of course, this is what you are going to lean to the most, because it's what has most been practiced. I want to remind us that even though we do have consciousness and we have subconscious and all of these things, the brain's job is to continuously fine tune the data that's coming in and practice the things that it knows that are familiar to give you results that are familiar, because it doesn't like new things. Your brain does not look for and get excited about new expectations. So I love that you told us what you tried also already before, Catherine, doing a regulation strategy for 30 seconds first when trying to go to bed, like box breathing, meditation, or pressing. I want to celebrate the fact that you're trying these things. Curious if that's the best thing to keep trying. And I'm just not yet enough to feel safe to go to sleep quite that way. So a couple things I want to say on this. If those regulation practices are not lowering your number, I want you to remember to go back to gauging, giving yourself some kind of assessments. And this is in the regulated AF mini course that we have. So there's an assessment of 1 to 7. Make sure that you're clocking the number before you're doing a regulation practice, and then clocking the number after the regulation practice, because this is going to give you a better understanding of whether the practice has been effective or not. Because how does it feel is too fluffy for a lot of us. We need more data, more specific data. Having said that, it may be, and this is my case, that instead of having one practice for 30 seconds, you need multiple practices that are different for 30 seconds at a time. Because I couldn't get myself to do something for 2 minutes. I can't get myself to sometimes do, I definitely can't get myself to do an hour-long yoga, but I can do 3 or 4 yoga videos that are 12 to 15 minutes. Because the commitment is too strong, it's too exhausting.
It's like the difference between watching a TV show and watching a movie.
Okay, so Catherine says it's effective, but it's taking me from 10 to 9. Okay, great. So I know that doesn't feel great. You want it to be much lower. I also had a question. How long are you giving yourself to dial down from when you've decided it's time to get ready for bed to I need to be going to sleep now? Like, what is the time frame? Is it like 4 minutes? Is it like 2 hours? What is the time frame there?
So
Okay, good.
I also want to ask you,
Probably solid the 30 minutes to an hour. Okay. I think you need more active relaxing.
This is what I was going to say. I think that what you're trying to,
That's what I needed.
I think that what you were recognizing is my nervous system is all fucking wired and I need to wind down. And so I think what you're doing is associating winding down with winding down activities like being sedentary.
Understandably,
and
that's what a lot of our regulation practices are.
And I think what would be really valuable, Catherine, is if you gave yourself some options that are appropriate for the time of day. So I would say take a walk, but if it's at night and you're in an area where you don't feel safe walking out at night, then don't do that. But like, what are some physical options that you can look at and just say, like, feeling wired, feeling like the day is still going and you're like, I know I'm supposed to fucking be calming down, but my shit just won't slow down. So when you're in that space, if you could come up with like 3 or 4 physical options, you just look at them and say, which one do I need right now? Like, which one, if these are the only options that I can do, what do I need right now? I think you need to discharge energy.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to like take a walk or shake, or if you have one of those like fucking social media treadmills that slides under your bed, like just get on a fucking, that's what it is. Just get on that and like take a walk. Like fucking anything, but I think you need to really like I think you need to get the day off of you. And once you get the day off of you, it's going to be easier to then say, now it's time to do some box breathing. But if you're running,
it's like you're running into a brick wall,
right,
going a million miles per hour.
And then, I mean, just think about it that way. Like, think about if you were to go out for a run and then someone were to say, okay, your run's over. Now I want you to sit down and do box breathing. That'd be really uncomfortable, like physically.
Do you drive, Catherine? Or have you driven a car? I was nervous that some of the more activating strategies would wake me up. Yeah, so it's going to be, you're going to explore, right? So some of them you may find are waking you up, but if you're already at a 10, then you can't get more awake than that, right? And so it's what can you do to bring yourself down to a 9, to an 8, to a 7, to a 6. And usually what happens is when we do a couple practices back to back where you are lowering the stimulation level, you are going to see that it drops a little bit further faster. And so you drive, but you hate it, I believe. I relate to a lot of that when I was super dysregulated. But you understand the concept when you're coming up to a stop sign, you're coming up to a red light. Some people are speeding and then they slam on the brakes, or it feels like they're slamming on the brakes when they get to that stop sign. What we know to be more effective for your car and for your nervous system is slowing down sooner and then slowing down more and slowing down more and slowing down more. By the time you get to the stoplight or the stop sign, you have slowed down enough that it's not slamming the car into a huge jolt that both the people in it and the car is going to have a hard time navigating. Like it's just, it's physics, right? And so the same thing is happening with your nervous system in your body. Lower the energy first to make the down-regulating ones feel safer for after that. That's a great idea. You are slamming your brakes on your brain at bedtime. And so you need some titration. If you are going to give yourself a solid hour to like start at the top, start at a 10. So maybe at a 10, I don't know if you can run or not. I can't run because it's too much for my joints, but whatever the version of running is for you, doing that for 30 seconds to a minute isn't going to wind you up so that you can't go to sleep in an hour, because the next thing you're going to do is not run. It's going to be a little bit less than running. So maybe it's dancing. What's happening? Not like someone's killing cats outside. Sorry. The next step is, walking around your house maybe. And maybe the next step is slowing down the walking around your house. And maybe the next step is sitting down and doing something with your arms, where the movement is just with your arms. There's lots of different ways to maneuver, but it's about titrating for the hour. Give yourself the full hour to like start, go down, to go down, go down, go down.
I also want to ask you to not try to avoid thinking about your day. So if
You
you're
need to maybe do a brain dump too, if we need to wrap up too.
Yeah. If you are at the end of your day wired, and then you're doing nervous system regulation where you're like, I'm not thinking about the day, I'm just going to regulate my nervous system so I can go to bed. Like, you're ignoring the big part.
Yeah.
Like, you're ignoring the part that's dysregulated you. It's like when a little kid is really afraid and you're like, yeah, just don't worry about it. Fuck you, don't worry about it. I'm afraid. Like, I need you to take care of this shit. You're the adult. So you can't ignore it, because that's the shit your body's afraid of. And you're telling, like, don't ignore it, don't worry about it, we'll get to it tomorrow. I'm not going to ignore it, asshole. This is the biggest thing on my mind. So when you're doing any kind of regulation at the end of the day, and you're doing like physical shit, like one of the things that I do is like, I physically shake, and I haven't said this in a long time, but like, I will literally like wipe my whole body, like I'm wiping water off of my body after I get in the shower. And when I do that, what I'm thinking is I'm wiping off the shit that I don't want. Like, I'm wiping off the anxiety, I'm wiping off the stress, I'm wiping off the crap of my day that I don't want to hang on to me anymore, but I'm doing it on purpose. Like, if one of my kids was being a pain in the ass, like, I'm wiping that off and I'm like, I'm not fucking dealing with that. Like, that is gone. And so I identify the thing so that I can get rid of it. When you're doing this, if shit comes to mind, don't force it out.
Yeah.
One of the things that I feel is like absolutely killing the reason why people can't, or the reason why people meditate, is this idea of like, when you meditate, you're supposed to have a clear mind and you're not supposed to let any, like, you're just supposed to be a void. And the reality is thoughts are going to come in. The idea with meditation is not like mulling over those thoughts. It's just like letting them whiz in and out of your brain. Same thing with this. When you're regulating your nervous system at the end of the day, and you're giving yourself, by the way, congratulations, that much time to fucking get ready to be able to like get into bed, give yourself permission to let the shit go as it comes into your brain. You're not activating yourself anymore if you're actively dysregulating while you're thinking about it. It's going to keep it from being this anxiety that you wake up to, because
you're going to
you've
get better
handled
sleep.
it. Yeah.
So you'll have more restorative sleep, and then over time this compounds. So yeah, you're welcome. I also want to add in Roxana's idea about the atypical nervous system regulation practices, like coloring in a coloring book before sleep, is one of the things I used for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's actually something we helped our oldest child do for a long time, because the brain just was going, and they had really hard time dialing down to be able to go to sleep, which was making them tired the next day. Yeah. And so doing the physical stuff, maybe for the first half an hour, and this is just, I have no idea how long it's going to take, and you may not know, and it also may not be the same every day. So it's going to be really tuning in with your body, like what feels good right now? Do I need to move a little bit more? Do I need to sit and let that settle? The second half of maybe that hour is could be coloring, it could be doing Zentangles, it could be something I started doing as cross stitching, something that's physical for my hands and my brain, but it's not a activating activity. And so that you can still have that interaction, but it's not work related, it's not on your phone, but it gives you something busy to do with your hands. And then what is the step down from that? And what's the step down from that till eventually where you are doing the box breathing? It actually isn't, you're not starting at a 10 trying to get yourself to a 2. You're at a 6, maybe getting yourself to a 5 or 4, and then you can do whatever the next thing is and get from 3 to a 2, and then you go to sleep.
Also, I want to point out here, if you are ending your day as if your motor is like running really hard, I feel like there's an opportunity for you to do some investigating on whether or not preparing yourself for the next morning is part of your down regulation for your evening. There's nothing that feels safer than being ready. And
actually, Catherine, was that you in Circle that just posted that? I just saw those things this morning. Somebody was just talking about the fact that they did that. Yes, she actually was doing that. Perfect. And that was very regulating.
Perfect. Yeah. And so let that be part of it. Let that be part of it on purpose. Let that be part of it on purpose while you're doing highly active shit.
Well, that can be the first,
Yeah.
your first like chunk of time when you're trying to do this by winding down. It's a great way to segue from the workday to
And
non-work brain.
turn on some music and shake your ass and make a sandwich. Like,
Yes.
for real, like, do that shit and make the prep for the next day fun. Make it regulating and fun. And so now you're regulated and you're waking up and you're like, look how fun it is. I don't have to work really hard this morning because I'm ready to go for whatever the fuck it is. Like, that's pretty sweet.
I love the idea of what you said, Catherine, and it's clearly something you're aware of. The starting some knitting projects during co-working session is so brilliant because the start for so many of us is hard, especially if you're tired at the end of the day. But having things already started, especially with knitting, anything with when you're getting those first couple of things started and it's kind of awkward and it's not repetitive, just go, go, go yet. So creating some of these, and this is great insight for those of you who don't have this already. What are some things you can get started, whether it's a coloring page or it's a knitting project or an art project that isn't going to be activating or that you can allow yourself to be meditative in? Maybe it's, so Michelle isn't here anywhere, but she does bullet journaling. And so setting up a page and getting her supplies out can make it easy for her to actually do the bullet journaling and the design aspect of it, because the initial parts are done. With my mandalas, I will do the boring part, doing the circles, doing the lines through it, so that when I'll do like a batch of them, like 5 or 6 of them, so that when I do want to have the like just creative part where I'm just doing the actual meditative work, that's already set up and ready for me. So think about what are some of the things you can do for yourself to set yourself up for those experiences so that it's easy to say yes. That's what we're looking for. How can I make this easy to say yes for myself to do this thing that I wish I was already in the middle doing? How many of you had that feeling? Like, I wish I was already in the middle doing this, but starting it feels like, ugh. So using a co-working session that we have 2 of again this month is really powerful. Or doing a body doubling. Like a lot of times when Brandon and I are having conversations, something we learned way too late in our relationship, I need to be doing something with my hands to be able to stay engaged in the conversation for more than 15, 20 minutes. I will do some of that like prep work for some of the things that I'm doing, so that it's easy to say yes to later on when I want the solo time. So great conversations today, guys. This was really good. Yeah, for sure, Renee. I'm the same way. So we're excited to hear what happens for you, Catherine. Make sure you let us know in Circle what your things you're trying and the updates. Those of you who have gotten some inspiration from these ideas today, let us know what you're going to try. We did mention on the last village call that we're going to start a soup recipes thread, because we're talking about soup. So I'll make sure we get that in the lineup this week. Last 2 weeks we've been moving and getting kids ready for things and all that. So we're settled back into our routines. We're excited to be able to put that in there. So if someone else gets to the soup thread before I do, feel free to start that thread in the Circle.
I eat soup for breakfast. I fucking love it.
So thanks for being here. We look forward to seeing you in the next call. Yes, we're in the new space now. See how bright it is. And we will be on social media. Don't forget, if you haven't already, put that there. This is the Bold to Becoming You workshop. Early bird pricing is still happening right now. So you save $100 at the end of this month. And it is going to be upgraded with even more neuroscience, which I'm super excited to share with you all. And Brandon's going to be doing the slides for me so that when I get there, it's not just all nerding out for 6 hours about neuroscience. So you'll have actual things you can do, not just learning things. But if you haven't signed up for that and you have questions about it, feel free to message me. I know some of you are already signed up, and I'm so excited to spend that weekend with you. Thanks for being here. And we will see you in Circle if you're in the village, and we'll see you on Instagram, Facebook if you are in our general community. Bye, loves.
See you, everybody.